musician and djembe player from California. Nowadays the djembe has proliferated so much and it's played in so many different contexts that nowadays I view the djembe almost like the guitar. It's an instrument, and depending on what context you want to play it in, that demands the different amount of study and your own approach to what you want to accomplish for the situation that you're in. For example, the guitar. You can take the guitar and look at it like this is a traditional instrument from Spain or wherever it's from, really. And you could learn traditional 14th century repertoire to play at your conservatory, to attain a degree in traditional guitar. Or then there's the other end of the extreme where people are playing heavy metal and just completely rocking out, and sometimes with very little musicality. And there's every instance in the middle of those two extremes too. So I feel like the djembe has come to a point where it's similar, in that many drummers exist. Some drummers exist in a sphere of modern djembe playing, performance-related djembe playing, where they never really have to learn those more traditionally based fundamentals, because what they're trying to accomplish doesn't demand that. And then there's other djembe players that are playing in modern musical settings with other instrumentation. I was just recently married, and there was djembe players in the church, and they were playing American music, copying a drum set with a djembe, and then playing Sarah music, copying with the djembe. But so then again, it just all depends what you want to get out of it. If you're in djembe heartland, where people are still using the djembe culturally in their ceremonies, and you want to step in and you want to play, then you're obligated by social norm to learn, and by respect, to learn what they're playing and to play accordingly. So in the places like eastern, southern Senegal, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, where they're still using this djembe in those ceremonies of marriage, wedding, baptism, spirit possession, if you want to learn that and play for those people, then that's the real roots of the djembe, and learning those things will just really improve your comprehension of where this instrument comes from and what it was originally used for. And then from there, you can kind of use that as a springboard to go anywhere you want. But I also respect the fact that not all people are cut out for that path, or that's not called for in every instance. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to learn with people that definitely were cultural drummers, that came from a tradition of passing on a lineage of musical knowledge, and I've been really thankful for that experience, and it's guided me down a path where I'm able to do many of those different options of playing djembe in different contexts. So for me, it's all an expansion of possibilities. I would say get a good teacher. First and foremost, get a good teacher that has experience with folkloric music, traditional music, and somebody that's a good person. Basically in music, we always say, find somebody that's talented and that's easy to work with. Those are two different things that are very important independently. So if you found those two things, you're lucky, and learn as much as you can with them, and also don't be afraid to learn with other teachers. It's good to learn with many teachers. That will really diversify your understanding of the instrument. And practice as much as you can. Play all styles. Play by yourself, play with other people. Watch the videos of all the great masters. See what they're doing. And travel to Africa, definitely. You must travel to Africa to really understand the djembe, I believe. So, that's my advice. I've been drumming for about 5 years, from the ages of about 15 to 20, before I ever made it to Africa. And I had some African teachers, some African American teachers, some American teachers, and was self-teaching myself as well. And I remember getting to Africa and playing for the first time really in the village with my teacher and some older masters. I honestly forget if it was him and them that said it or if it was me that realized it, but basically started from scratch again after playing for 5 years. I had to unlearn a lot of things that I had learned and start from zero again. And it was a humbling experience, but I was glad it happened at still a young age, where it wasn't too shocking of an event. And I was able to really focus on the fundamentals and the origins and the reasons behind djembe drumming at that point, and kind of start my new career per se from there. My new ascension into the realms of learning the djembe. Well, basically, the basic lesson I was being taught at that point was, every rhythm has a way to play solo over it, has specific phrases and feelings that you can implement over each specific rhythm, and it's not really a free-for-all in a traditional context. My teacher was an old man, and he kind of demanded that each rhythm be played exactly in a certain fashion, not the way that you would see it being played in modern context, where there's a lot of leeway for interpretation and invention. There always is some leeway, but what I really learned is you really have to master to play a rhythm in its traditional sense before then you can really find your expressive leeway, and not in the reverse order.
You and I actually share a teacher that I would call him my first real djembe teacher, Mamadou Sidibe. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with him?
Yeah, I met Mamadou Sidibe when I was 21 years old, and I came to Africa to actually study with a different teacher, but found this man to be we were more compatible, maybe musically and spiritually, so I was more drawn to him to learn from, and he really was able to teach me a lot about the drum and a lot about life through the drum. I remember the first week I took lessons with him. We played the same thing every day for 3 hours for 5 days straight. And the guy was already old when I met him. He was maybe 72 years old, and we started asking around, like, is this guy senile maybe? Like, because we're doing the same thing every day, over and over and over and over. So I thought that, maybe he had lost it. But then I realized that, that was the best way to really drill something into your head. And that us in America, of course, we always want bigger, faster, more. And the way I'd been taught djembe before in 1-hour classes in America was like fairly scattered. We would do 2 or 3 rhythms in 1 hour once a week. You would come back, it would be 2 or 3 new rhythms next week. And so you knew a little bit of everything and nothing about anything really. So finally, after 5 days of playing the same thing over and over again, we switched, but still today, 20 years later, 15 years later, I can still play you that thing he taught me exactly. And that's the only thing I could play you exactly like somebody taught me 15 years ago, to the T. So he really taught me just that about life too. I mean, that was such a metaphor for life for me, that, if you want to do anything, do it well. Do it over and over until you really know what you've got. And more specifically, musically, he really was able to teach me about speaking with the instrument really calmly and slowly, enunciating what you're trying to say, and creating moods. So much of the djembe playing nowadays is so hyperspeed, that the nuance gets really left out, and a lot of the speaking, you can't speak what you want to speak at 1,000 miles an hour. Music, good music, you have to slow it down to start, or at least at some point. It needs to be slow enough for everything to breathe. Music has to breathe. So, and that's another metaphor for life. It's like anything too rushed is no good. There needs to be time for everything to breathe and to arise naturally. So he was really able to teach me that with his playing, and bring me into kind of like semi-altered states of consciousness where I was having realizations about life and music during the rhythms. And that's something that you don't find all the time. And I was really lucky that he took me under his wing in a very sentimental kind of way, and called me a son, and I was able to take maybe 200-300 private lessons with him over the course of 6 or 7 years, and I felt really lucky that I was learning from somebody of a past generation that people don't play like anymore. So yeah, he really taught me about the tone of the instrument. He used to always tell me it's the tone. You have to get the tone. And he was really strict. He wouldn't let me get by almost playing something right. I really had to play it right. And he kind of held strict parameters on what I was doing, but that really helped to form me in my playing a lot more. Since then, I've had a lot of other teachers, probably some a lot more technically inclined than him, or a little more modern, clean players, but for sure he was able to convey to me something about playing and spirituality of playing that I haven't yet encountered with any other teachers. I've learned a lot of different things from other teachers, but that was my experience with Mamadou Sidibe. Every teacher can give you something, so that's what you got to look for. And I had one djembe player explain that to me one day too. He said, I was in Bamako, and he said, in Bamako, you will find the strongest drummer. You'll find the fastest drummer. You'll find the sweetest drummer. You'll find, the most traditional drummer. You'll find the most technically talented drummer. You'll find all these drummers. So anytime, you're really, really with a teacher, there's different levels of being with a teacher. In Africa in the old days, being with a teacher was not just, oh hey, you're teaching a class, I'm with you today. There were certain initiatory steps to becoming a student, and they probably varied greatly across Africa. But my one Congolese drum teacher, I used to study quite extensively with the Congolese drummers, and they told me, for them, before you became a student, the teacher would have to beat you up. You would come to him, you might play with him one or two times, and you might have seen him play, but when you were ready to play with him, he would beat you up. And then you were his student. And I remember I had played so many hours with my one teacher, and one day I was like just daydreaming, kind of playing, and he hit me so hard behind the head, I had no idea what happened. And he started beating me up in the middle of the dance class, and I had heard what he had said before about this. I had heard this story before, so I was kind of internally kind of happy he was beating me up, because I felt like I was being initiated in a kind of way. So when you're really with a teacher, they will convey things to you, and that's I guess the advice, more detailed advice I could give is not to just search out a teacher that plays good, but like I said, a teacher that you have a personal relationship with, that will really take you under their wing and instill certain concepts and values with you. This certain Congolese teacher that I had, he instilled strength and endurance in me. He would just bring me to the ultimate brink of fatigue and just push me again until I was, peeing blood. That's something that happens to us drummers sometimes. And that taught me a lot too. That taught me, about persevering beyond your own personal boundaries that you hold for yourself in your mind, whether in music or in life. You can always push yourself further, and it helps if you have somebody to push you to those levels. So from any teacher you have, if it's a good teacher, it's a real teacher you have a real connection with, you can glean some quality or moral or attribute from. Just always look for what that is when you're with them.
That's good advice. So you don't only need to search out a good teacher, you also need to be a good student.
That's true. And being a good student, that consists of a few things, many of which I had no clue of when I started out drumming. But, being a good student in Africa, to really have a teacher, you have to take them like your dad, pretty much. You have to consider them like your father or your uncle, and you're expected to do certain things for them, which consists of bringing them whatever substances they like. If they like to chew on cola nuts, you bring them cola nuts. If they like cigarettes, you bring them cigarettes. If they like beer, you bring them beer. You drive them to and fro, where they want to go. You respectfully play accompaniment for them. You don't ever try to jump out in front of them when it's not called for. If you have a good teacher that wants to see you shine, they will help bring you up through the ranks of Djembe to a point where they want to see you shine too. And you do have to beware of bad teachers, people that don't want to see you shine, and people that want to abuse their authority or position and manipulate you into, giving them more than they deserve. Money is something you have to watch out for, as we know in this world. Anything that's too heavily associated with, anytime you're with somebody that's talking to you about needing more money at every moment, you have to be suspicious of that. But back to the point of being a good student, like I said, taking care of their needs, always being respectful to them, and showing up, wanting to learn. I know as a teacher myself that the greatest inspiration to teach someone is to clearly view that they are inspired to learn. So as long as you show that to your teacher, and you show up with a good attitude, ready to learn, and in a respectful manner, then through the law of attraction, you should attract a good teacher. For me, I find a lot of healing in playing, and a lot of soul fulfillment just in functioning in a group with other people that are all just really looking for happiness and cohesiveness, togetherness. So I used to have more goals that were more goals like oriented around, I want to learn every rhythm there ever was on the djembe, and I want to master this instrument to the greatest potential that I can. And for whatever reasons, better or worse, those particular goals for me have kind of diminished a little bit to the point now where I'm content playing to enjoy myself. I do want to continue learning and growing with the djembe, and every time I meet masters that are more experienced than me, I feel so humbled and want to learn what they have to give. But for me personally, my goals with the djembe now are just to play in settings that feel good and that make other people happy and make myself happy. This is my main goal with the djembe.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad I could share my experience with the djembe.
Me too. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.